on ground in Syria to the outside world, since the media in Syria used to be under full control of the government, and nothing will be broadcasted but what the government see that it should be, or the way they see it. We welcome Mary. Mary is an activist and supporter for the Syrian revolution, and Thair, hopefully later on he can hook with us, and he is a correspondent for Shaam News Network, and he is on the ground in Syria. He is in a besieged area, and Thair always bring us what's going on in his side. Mary, what made you support the Syrian revolution? What is it that attracted your attention to this revolution? And you've been a very good supporter all along.
I've been supportive of the Palestinian struggle since the 80s. So I've been following any kind of developments in the area. Always with the interest about protecting and spreading the word as much as I could about the rights of people whose rights were being violated. So as far as getting involved in Syria, that came pretty naturally, actually before the Syrian revolution started, because I was already following everything going on in the area with the protests in Tunisia, Egypt, and of course the revolution in Libya. And the word, on the street was it's never going to happen in Syria because of the way Syria is.
Sure.
And we were just hoping for reforms, And then of course, when even if Assad hadn't gotten violent with the protesters, I would have still been on the side of who was asking for their rights. And the fact that he has been so violent has made it that I can't just watch and spread the word. I have to do a lot more. So that includes blogging and writing and translating and going to marches and organizing and doing fundraising and things like that. I unfortunately have never been to the area. I'm a Mediterranean, however, so all of this impacts me pretty closely. And as well, we've got lots and lots of refugees that are coming to Italy from Syria. So the daily contact with the situation is very, you feel it constantly. You don't just learn about it when you open up the TV news, because they'll never talk about it, and it's hardly in the newspapers, and so I'm only involved really because there's I don't really see I have any other kind of option but to be involved.
Yes. So we really appreciate your support, and I guess
no problem.
Try today to cover some of the topics that although I wanted to ask Thaer many of these questions, but what I will do is I will go ahead and those questions I addressed them several times with him, because other media organization asked me to ask someone from inside. So I will go ahead and address those
on his behalf.
Thaer is one of the others, many of the correspondents over there who have had really were very I don't know how to talk about them, but really they put their lives on risk, because we witnessed many of them that already were killed in the battlefields, or by rockets or by shelling, and they put their life on risk. They're young men. Most of them are very young men that they had a future. I know that Thaer, he was studying web design, I believe, and he couldn't finish his study. Now he's in a besieged area. He can't even see his family, and he witnessed many of his colleagues that they were killed before him, and it's not an easy situation that they're in, but they chose to do that. It was their choice, because they want this word to be delivered to the outside world. Unfortunately, we're not finding very positive support from the outside world. One of the main things that I wanted to talk about today is the humanitarian aid to Syria, which we hear that we're going to receive and where it's going to go, but I don't think that the outside world is doing what it's supposed to do to deliver enough humanitarian aid. That people are dying from hunger and from starvation. I think we spoke, me and Thair, about this several times, that this is a new weapon that the regime is using. Children are dying from hunger, and I just wonder many times. Usually, when a mother, her son or her daughter get killed in front of her, it's the most maybe painful feeling in the world. But how would a mother feel when she sees a child getting killed every day in front of her because she cannot give him food or drink? There is no medicine, and this is the situation that they have right now in the besieged area, and this has been going on for a few months, for quite, some areas maybe a year or more. This is one of the things that really we need to find a way to let the world do something about it. I mean, I know that it's just personal efforts and single efforts, and it will need a lot of efforts to push the world to do something. Now,
can I interrupt you for a second? There's a person on the side. Can you see where it says speakers? Is Sayer one of these? It's written only in Arabic. Can you read that? Because there's 4 people. I'd have to boot someone out for Sayer to come.
Yeah, Sayer is one of them, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. But I think he lost. I believe that Sayer lost connection completely because I don't see him online even.
Oh, okay. But it says boot. So I mean, I'm still able to. I mean, it reads as if he is inside this. No, don't boot him. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he's trying to find connection.
Okay. Sorry.
One of the question here. Oops, I got this slide.
If I could say something about the humanitarian aid before we get to that question, just my own point of view, I think there has been actually a lot of humanitarian aid. In fact, I know there has been. The problem is it's not allowed into certain areas. A lot of it, as a matter of fact, yesterday, the first major convoy that was supposed to pass through from Turkey into Syria had been blocked by Assad because he said it's Friday and it's a holiday, so the borders are closed. So that was, of course, just an excuse, in order to block the arrival of aid. But the aid, I mean, and we're all collecting aid. There's a lot of the thing is, aid is there, but it's Assad that's not letting it come in. He's maintaining it for his own troops, or who knows what, or it's ending up on a black market, or it's getting destroyed, or I don't know exactly what. But and then another thing about aid, there are actually 2 other things about aid I'd like to say. One thing is most people are donating aid to things like UNICEF and the big agencies. And another question is, how much of this is lost in overhead, and how much, I mean, I believe personally it's preferable for one to donate to more grassroots movements, especially if they have connections inside the areas. I mean, of course everyone needs aid, but I believe the areas that have been starved for longer, I think those need to have priority. So I mean, I believe that people need to somewhat look a little bit harder, because people are giving. I mean,
That's very true. Yeah, people are giving, but the problem is it's a political issue because number
Oh,
one,
yes,
there is
I agree with that.
from the international community, and let's say UN and UNICEF, they have to have a way into pushing those aid inside, but I don't think anybody's doing the right thing. Um, Over the last period, I read numerous reports from people inside Syria and inside the besieged areas that number one, maybe 10% of the aid is being delivered inside, if any. The government plays huge games that they allow little bit of help to go inside, and then they take it. And what they do with it is they take it to the areas that they have their supporters that they already don't need. That but of course, because of the sanction, this is a good opportunity for the government to take. I mean, I don't put it past them if they will resell the products.
I agree. So but one of another problem is, I think, people have stopped working for towards a political solution. I mean, people in the revolution and the supporters abroad, simply because we're so focused on bringing in aid. And I think the world community has to make us take this burden off of us. People can't. I mean, they can give. If they have the leeway to do so, but I mean, the people around the world, it's not their responsibility to deal completely with the humanitarian crisis. And this also depletes the energy of all the revolutionary supporters around the world, because all of our work is about collecting aid, delivering aid. Just the other day, we got a photo. Yesterday, a photo came in of an ambulance that was brought in by the Italians. They're on their 10th mission right now, but on one of their previous missions, an ambulance that they had brought in had been destroyed, and they had seen the photo of it. So the thing is, an ambulance is needed, but it's also a moving target. Yeah. So all of our energy are going into these things, which of course help, but then until you eliminate the cause, and you can't do that unless you have a real established revolutionary political idea that people don't feel as something that's absurd and only for a few radicals, but is diffused among everyone, that it's the just and the right thing to do. And we don't have the time to do political work, because we're so busy with all of the other, the life necessity aspect. Right. And this to me is another, it's all, is like, as I say, I don't know the word in English, but flour for the sack of Assad. He doesn't have to worry about the food,
right?
So we do,
right?
So, and this way he can only worry about winning the war, because we don't have time to think about winning the war.
Yeah, the thing is, I tell you what, on one of the, I really don't remember, but one of the interviews that was done by a media organization with I was translating, and I know that the activist said the anchor asked him how would the international community can help, how can they help, and the activist said if the UN wants, they can even throw food basket by air. If they want, they can force. Sure. I mean, they can even do that. But the thing, because the people in Syria are, and this is one of the things that I had on mind to ask Thaer, how would he see people in his area a few months from now if they don't get relief? Because I know that people are dying from starvation. And see, the problem is when you cover the Syrian revolution, there is so much to cover. This is part.
Yes.
And that part of many parts. Now we're talking about the struggle inside. There is the struggle of the refugees in the camps. There is the struggle of those refugees who flee outside the country. The problem is about the ongoing struggle inside, and the clashes and the shelling and all of that we hear, not daily, actually every minute or every hour. It's a non-stop. And Some days are much worse than the other days. So the whole country is in a disaster, whether for the people inside or the people who are outside. There are many topics to cover, but the thing is, one of the thing is we need the international community to do something serious to help those people, to provide the humanitarian aid, to force it inside the besieged area.
So I have a question. And then the people down here have got the questions. But about you said we have to force the international community into action. So action about bringing aid in is of course one action. And then is there any other action that you believe?
Yes, that they need to to accompany the aid inside and aid delivered, and to stick with that. I mean, it's just if that's not being done, then I mean there is no aid coming. They're saying 10% of the aid may be going, and that's going to happen? With population of few million that they're being starved and almost starved to death in some areas. So okay, Tahir is here. So
okay. But there's a question that I don't have the answer for. Maybe you know a lot more about it. But someone's asking about the Médecins Sans Frontières activists that had been kidnapped. Is there any word about them? And then I will add, is there any word about Father Paulo Dall'Olio?
Not I know of. No.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
Okay. Then another question down here is, why don't the Free Army use the weapons that they have on the Assad people places to force them? Wait, the argument.
If you
why don't they attack the Mesa airport to make them stop taking off? So it's actually asking about the FSA and the weapons. So if you could talk about if they have.
See, the thing is,
what these weapons can do.
Yeah, when they have weapons, they are fighting the regime. There is something wrong that he's not able to go as a speak, and I don't know. Okay, let me tell him.
Okay, Bahrain asks about the international community never does anything, and with the Syrian cases, and why did they do something with this revolution? But I beg to differ that they did something about this revolution. I don't. You always hear the kind of people saying, and you can even see the quote marks, Western-backed, opposition, but in words, not really in deed. We've heard about the, KSA and Qatar promising weapons, and maybe some of them have arrived. But as far as the United States providing, which, let's just admit it, the United States and Europe are considered more or less the international community. I mean, they're the ones that have the power to actually change the game more than the smaller players. And the thing is, they haven't had all this kind of support. They've had vocal support. They've talked about red lines. They've talked about good guys and bad guys, and they've deplored what Assad has done. But I don't know of any kind of major armaments or any kind of major training. I mean, it's quite clear that this kind of, it's more a narrative about Western-backed opposition, because at least the FSA, as far as I know, they have not been armed by the United States or Europe.
Not anybody. See, the thing is, when you speak with people on ground inside Syria, and that's been, and that's now this is a ground to have discussion, right? When you speak with people, they'll tell you the situation. They said, yes, we get what? Machine gun. That's the maximum they get. And
what does that do against, a bomb, a barrel bomb?
The problem is, if you noticed lately, that the government is dropping explosive barrels, and that's causing big damage There are some areas that the government is going in with bulldozer, destroying the whole village or town. Nothing is left out. Nothing is left. So, how the Free Syrian Army gonna face power like this with just beginning? Yeah, but I mean the ammunition or the weapons they have is really powerless in front of this huge power that it's backed up by Russia, Iran, and actually the international community. Because I don't know if you read an article before that even Israel is selling arms to Iran, supposedly under sanctions.
Yeah, I've read that.
And Iran is sending the weapons to Syria. Hezbollah is sending aid to Syria. Russia is sending, China is sending. So the thing is, if we're gonna ask the FSA, I mean, what do they have to, fight with and attack, big airports or military bases? It's under the government. That's something, yeah.
So the thing is, I think one of the duties,
and Brian is right. U.S. has blocked delivery of effective weapons. That's very right. What Brian is saying here.
But I think there's a very strong narrative that goes around saying, it's a NATO war and there's Western-backed opposition, and and all of these things. It's besides the fact that it's untrue. It's it causes a shift of the discourse from who is actually doing the damage to who is feeding a war.
Right.
Where and another thing which I think is kind of important, and I'm sure everyone that supports the revolution can agree. We've probably all noticed a linguistic shift, in the discourse. Only we, who support the revolution, continue to call it a revolution. In the newspapers, it's at the very best, they will call it a civil war.
Right.
You'll have the word insurgents. You'll have all kinds of there's a huge fear to admit what it actually is. That it is a revolution, and I think that's kind of playing into the tendency that the mainstream average person, the fear of revolution. Lots of us that have grown up, leftists and anarchists, and we've always, revolution. It's always been the thing to aim for. And then when it actually happens, a lot of the strongest people who have always shouted for the revolution have run to the hills. They don't want to have anything to do with it because it's not it doesn't fit their narrative as a revolution, a leftist revolution, as a class revolution, or as a the East versus West, the Russia versus America. It's got all kinds of elements in it that have confused these people. So instead of supporting what it is, they'll then opt for another word, crisis. For example, in the With Syria campaign, which was effective, and let's just at the end, I'd like to know actually how much Oxfam and Save the Children had collected, because they had a collection drive with that last Friday. I'd like to know, economically how this has has helped the Syrian people. Because as far as consciousness raising, what they actually did was they kept calling it a crisis. A crisis is something that, that has a long gestation, like an economic crisis, someone invested badly, or a hurricane or whatever. But a revolution is not a crisis. And I think a lot of us have to really work very hard if we're involved in any way in raising awareness in our communities, in continuing to tell the truth of the situation, and to explain that people don't have to be afraid of a revolution if the revolution is just, if it's a revolution against an oppressor.
Right.
It's and the thing is, we've got a lot of, I think, since we lost a lot of our, comrades, who would have helped us in this task. They're not with us on this case.
Okay.
And so we have to work harder in that aspect.
True. And Zaire is with us right now.
I see.
We let him. Hopefully, we can get him so we can ask him some of the questions. But remind me, Alice and Hussam, I would like to get back to the to your comments later, and I would really want to maybe clarify something. I think people, when they call it, and I can never say, okay, this country is evil or that country is evil, but I think we have some leaders who are either they're evil or mishandling situations. So I think I will get back with that if I can get Thaer to answer my questions, because I think we've been waiting for him. Thaer, you can hear me? سامعني يا سائر؟
Yes.
Okay. طيب أهلا وسهلا فيك. We welcome Thaer. He is our correspondent, Shaam News Network correspondent on ground in Syria. Thaer is from the East Ghouta, where Damascus rural, in the besieged area. Let me just. Okay. Bless you. Thaer, ممكن تعطينا لمحة بسيطة عن حياتك قبل الثورة؟ شو كنت عم تعمل؟ I'm asking Thaer, how was his life before the revolution started 3 years ago?
بالنسبة لي أنا كنت يعني شاب مثل الشباب طالب جامعي من طبقة المتوسطة. كان دروس كان يعني مجرد تقريبا مجرد يعني فصل واحد وبتخرج من الجامعة. بدرس ثورة وبرينا معها، وكان مجرد تنسيقيات مظاهرات بشكل عادي، وبعدها انتقلت للعمل مع شركة شام، وهي يعني كنا ثورة مع شركة شام بالسنة هي سنة بالسنة الرابعة من الثورة.
السنة الثانية. عم تقول السنة الثانية؟ عفوا أنا ما سمعت.
لا عم بقول هلا وصلنا هلا هي السنة الرابعة بالثورة ولسه مع شركة شام.
أيوة نعم، أهلا وسهلا فيك. طيب
السنة الثانية ليش معي؟ يعني السنة الثانية مع شركة شام.
نعم. Thaer was one of any person in Syria. He was a student in the university and he had only one semester to finish, and then when the revolution started he put off everything and he was going with the demonstration, peaceful demonstration, and then he joined Shaam News Network, and he's still there holding. This is the 4th year of the revolution, and that's he's still going. طيب ثائر، كيف انت يعني تعمل بتقوم بعملك كمراسل؟ كيف تحصل على الأحداث وكيف بتجيب لنا إياها؟ We're asking Thaer how he does his work and how he authenticates the news from there and how he delivers it to us. تفضل يا ثاير.
بداية كنا مجرد مثلا إنه تنسيق مظاهرات، يعني اتفقنا مثلا مجموعة من الشباب إنه في عنا مظاهرة مثلا باليوم الفلاني بالوقت الفلاني، نروح بنجهز الأفتاء، بنجهز الأعلام، بنجهز الشباب اللي يصوروا. بتبلش المظاهرة، كل شخص بيقوم بدأ عمله. أنا كان مهمتي هي التصوير، وبعد منها رفع المقاطع على اليوتيوب ونشر القنوات الإعلامية. بالفترة الأخيرة ما صفت يعني عملنا مجرد إنه مجرد بس تصوير مظاهرات أو كتب مظاهرات، بعدين مثلا انتقل لتصوير الاشتباكات اللي بتصير، الانتهاكات حقوق الإنسان في دول النظام بشكل يومي، من قصف، من اعتقالات، من يعني كل أعمال وحشية يقوم بها النظام، بنوثق الدمار، بنوثق حالات الاعتقال. ممكن أحيانا نضطر نطلع نوثق معركة، ممكن تصير معركة مثلا، نكون عنا علم في معركة بالمكان الفلاني، نطلع نقوم بتخطيط المعركة، تصوير المعركة، ومن بعدها ممكن نرفع المقاطع على اليوتيوب ونشر القنوات. طبعا بالفترة الأخيرة صرنا نواجه كثير صعوبات، يعني في عندنا مشاكل
معلش خليني ترجم
بالإنترنت كثير صعوبات.
سائر خليني ترجم
أوكي.
خليني نترجم القسم هذا وبعدين برجع لك مشان بخليك عندك انت يعني بافكارك حتى نقول. سائر saying that in the beginning they used to do the demonstration or organize the demonstration, and when they did that they divided the work between them, and one of them will do they do the signs, they do one is responsible to take videos, and one to film the demonstration, and they go online and load it to YouTube immediately with date and time and everything. That was in the beginning, but then later on what happened is when they started witnessing the crimes of the regime towards the civilians there, whether it's shelling or it's detention, they go to the specific areas and the specific people, and they authenticate their the events over there. Now he has to also go to battlefields. They go to battlefields to take videos, to because they need to deliver the action. With that, they of course their life is in danger. He started talking about that, and I told him to stop until I translate what he was saying. So now we get to the battlefields, and where they have to bring the truth from there, and they have to even go into the battlefield and take the.
Do they go armed?
Yes, they do. Yes. Yeah, and I know that even like in some cases that they have to help, like when the chemical weapon attack took place in there, they just have no other option but to help when they see themselves into that situation. طيب تفضل يا سائر كمل.
تمام. هلا بداية كانت يعني الأمور أسهل من هيك كثير، يعني ما كانت صعوبات كثير بالنسبة لعملنا. كان الصعوبة هي أكثر شيء بالبداية، يعني إنه كنا نخاف من موضوع الاعتقالات المفاجئة، موضوع العوينية اللي كانت يعني ما كنا ناخذ تحت سيطرة النظام. أما بالفترات الأخيرة انتهينا من الموضوع هذا، ما نصنع آخر حضارات، بس وجدنا صعوبة يعني وجدنا صعوبات.
اوكي صوتك راح فلو ترجع تعيد. قلت
مش
نعم. هلا رجعت. تفضل.
هلا عم تسمعيني تمام؟
هلا عم بسمعك.
اوكي. عمو بداية كان العمل يعني أسهل من هيك كثير، يعني أكثر صعوبة من نواجهها والمشكلة اللي نواجهها هي موضوع الاعتقالات، يعني مع إنه كنا نعرف سيطرة النظام، إنه بأي لحظة ممكن النظام يلاقي ممكن إنه ياخذ يعني تم اعتقالنا. يعني هو صارت معي هالموضوع هذا، وتم اعتقال والدي لمدة يعني 3 أشهر ونص تقريبا، لأن ما وجدوني بالبيت فاعتقل والدي واعتقل عمي. حاليا انتهينا من موضوع الاعتقال، واجهتنا هلا صلاة اتصال أي معدات لازم للعقل في ضمن الحصار. يعني أنا هلا مجرد إنه بدي أحكي معكم إنه كان بالفيديو بقيت هلا ساعة ونص وأنا عم مشي لحتى قدرت أوصل للمكان، وحتى إنه
نعم الله يعطيك.
أكيد أنت لاحظت إنه صار هلا يعني تقريبا ساعة أحاول.
صح الله يعطيك العافية.
يعني
نعم صح نحن
صعوبات كثير نواجهها
نعم.
بالمحاسبة.
طيب خليني ترجم. نعم خليني ترجم. He said in the beginning that their work was they had the fear of detention by the government there, but they considered even with that they considered that their work back then was much easier. They fear that they will be detained. They might get raided by the government. And that happened with him. They raided his home, but he wasn't there, so they took his father and his uncle for 3.5 months, and the Syrian government, because they couldn't find him. So that's something that they had fear. But right now, their work is much more difficult. They're in a besieged area. And he said, as we see today, this is the equipment that they have. This is the internet connection. He's been trying to get on for the last 1.5 hour or more so he can join us. So see how much he's struggling to even deliver, what he's seeing and watching and witnessing. Of course, now they're in more danger of the shelling of the battlefields or of all of that. So their life is in more danger than before, and their work is much harder because of and sometimes the Syrian government, they should not just the power, the internet connection, everything is down. So that's one of the main struggle that they cause. طيب تفضل يا سائر، في شيء تكمله ولا أسألك سؤال تاني؟
تفضلي سؤال ثاني.
طيب أنت بالنسبة يعني أنت هلأ طبعا كل حياتك تغيرت وأنت حاطط حياتك كلياتها للثورة. ممكن تقلنا يعني أنت هلأ عم تشوف مشاهد أصعب من إنه نحن نتخيلها. هل ممكن تقلنا بعض الصعوبات اللي أو المشاهد الصعبة اللي أنت شفتها؟ خليني بس ترجم السؤال. Where I'm asking him that how he shifted all of his life and dedicated his life to the revolution. What are the most scene or situation that he thought he was under? تفضل يا ثاير.
أكيد طبعا يعني اللي كنت راسمه بحياتي أكيد كله تغير، يعني مستقبلي كله تغير. يعني شخص مثل إنه طالب جامعي، يعني بقي لي فصل واحد بتخرج. أكيد كان عندي طموحات إنه أكمل دراستي، ممكن سافر بعد منها، ممكن لاقي شركة أعمل فيها، أكمل دراستي مثلا تعلم اللغات. يعني في كثير مشاريع كانت ببالي. بلش بالثورة طبعا، قبل منها كانت تبلش الثورات في مصر، باليمن، بتونس، بليبيا. فكانت مجرد إنه يعني كنا بيقولوا إنه مظاهرات، شوية تصفيق. خلصت الثورة، سقط الرئيس وبلش يعني إن الثورة انتهت. فأنا يعني تركت بالنسبة لدراستي، أنا تركت دراستي وبلشت بالثورة، يعني على أمل إنه ما حطول كثير. أكيد نحن يعني مجرد ممكن شهور، يعني سنة تنتهي الثورة وننتصر بإذن الله ونخلص من الطاغية. للأسف إنه وصلنا بالسنة الرابعة ولساتنا نحن على أمل إنه اليوم وبكرة والشهر والشهرين نخلص ونرجع من أول وجديد، نبدأ حياتنا، نبدأ مستقبلنا، مستقبلنا وجديد، نبدأ سورينا وجديد. بالنسبة لسؤالك إنه عن المشاهد، يعني هلا وكان أصعب مشهد شفته أنا بالنسبة للغوطة يوم مجزرة الكيماوي. يعني كان يعني المنظر يعني صعب كثير إنه حدا يقدر يتخيله أو يشعر فيه أو يحس فيه إلا الشخص اللي كان موجود، الشخص اللي حمل الناس الميتة، حمل الأطفال، حمل النساء اللي كلها كانوا يموتوا بخنق. يعني المنظر يعني صعب الوصف أكيد. يعني قد ما صار قد ما طلعت صور، طلعت فيديوهات على الإنترنت، قد ما الشخص يتفرج عليها أو يشوفها، يعني صعب كثير يحس بالشعور، يعني يشعر بالشعور اللي شعره الشخص اللي موجود في مكان الحدث. يعني المجزرة ما بعتقد إنه صار مثل بالتاريخ، يعني وغير يعني مجازر كثير. يعني بالنسبة له يعني كانت هي المجزرة هي الأفظع، يعني كانت مجزرة كثير فظيعة. يعني إنه خلال يعني ساعات قليلة كثير يستشهد عدد كبير من الناس وينصاب عدد كبير من الناس. يعني هذا المشهد ما تكرر بخطوط. صار مشاهد كثير مؤلمة غيرها بالنسبة لمجازر القصف، يعني مجازر مثلا الإعدامات الميدانية غيره. بس كان هذا بالنسبة يعني لي هو أصعب مشهد شفته في حياتي.
I will go ahead and translate what he said, and of course I want the outsiders to, the one that's always thinking that, oh, they're not doing this and they're not doing that. I want them to just imagine a situation like this. Of course, Thair was a young man who had many dreams in front of him for the future, studying languages, finishing his study, have work, a good job, go to the outside world, and all of that. The thing is, Thair left all of that for the revolution. Of course, he's thinking like any other revolution. The president will step down, the president will be rescued or whatever, and the situation. But he's saying now we're in our fourth year, and the situation is still escalating. One of the worst scenario that he was in is chemical attack on the Ghouta that saw hundreds of people just killed in a few minutes, and he had to transport dead, whether children, women, men, and they were trying to help the ones that they were suffocated and they couldn't. So that was because to see all this large number actually of people that die in just a few minutes, although he watched many other scenarios where many massacres took place, or prosecutions. He saw all of that, and with all of that, still the worst one was when he saw the chemical attack, and that's one of the most difficult situation that he witnessed. طب سائر, why don't you tell us about some of your colleagues that they passed away, that they were murdered? ليه ما تحكي لنا عن بعض أصحابك اللي استشهدوا بالحدث؟ سامعني يا سائر؟
بالنسبة أنا معك تمام. هلا بالنسبة للجثث الكيماوي بعرف أنا في أصدقاء كثير استشهدوا استشهدوا بغير طريقة، يعني ما استشهدوا بالجثث الكيماوي. يعني بحكي لك مثلا عن أشخاص ما استشهدوا بالكيماوي أو كيف بدك تحسن الناس استشهدوا بالكيماوي.
نعم. يعني ممكن تقلنا عن
ممكن
المراسلين، بعض المراسلين، يعني أنا بحب أسمع عن بعض المراسلين.
في بعض المراسلين، يعني معظم الناس اللي استشهدوا بالجثث الكيماوي اللي ما كانوا موجودين أثناء بس استشهدوا بعد من الكادر الطبي. يعني معظم الناس اللي استشهدت بالمجزرة اللي كانوا معظم المدنيين. بعد ما أثناء الإسعاف استشهد ناس من الكادر الطبي نتيجة تأثرهم بالكيماوي أثناء الإسعاف، يعني سواء الناس اللي كانت عم تنقل المصابين أو سواء الناس اللي كانوا موجودين بالمناطق الطبية.
نعم. طيب, he's saying that during the chemical attack, many of his friends they passed away during that massacre, and also after, when they were trying to help and rescue the people, many of the physicians and the first aid nurses, they passed away, or they were killed. Many on the battlefields, many of his friends. So there are many experiences like that he witnessed. ممكن توصف لنا شو الحالة الإنسانية والوضع بالغوطة وقديش عم يوصلكم مساعدات إنسانية? What's the humanitarian situation right now in your area, and how much help or aid you're getting?
الوضع بالغوطة، يعني كيف عم يدفع الوضع السيء في الغوطة. المساعدات كثير عم يدخل، مجرد استثناء المساعدات اللي دخلت من تقريبا يومين. منظمة اليونيسف الولايات المتحدة واليونيسف دخلوا، يعني بس هن دخلوا قالوا إنه ندخل مساعدات، بس المساعدات هي 1000 وجبة، يعني 1000 وجبة لمليون شخص محاصر بالغوطة. يعني برأيك من شو فيها تكفي 1000 وجبة هي اللي دخلوها؟ يعني هن يعني الوجبات هي اللي دخلوها تكفي ل1% للناس المحاصرين بالغوطة. الناس الغوطة يعني وضعهم صار كثير صعب يعني.
وانت عم تقول
ما في مصاري عم
وجبة يعني وجبة
ما في أكل عم.
نعم وجبة واحدة يعني وجبة يعني ليوم واحد ولا يعني وجبة واحدة؟
يعني هلا هي الوجبة يعني تقريبا هن 1000 حصة يعني فينا نقول الوجبة يعني 1000 حصة. ما بقصد إنه وجبة هي ليوم واحد، بقصد إنه حصة يعني هالحصة ممكن حسب العائلة ممكن تكفي يومين ثلاث يعني ماكسيموم ممكن تكفي لأسبوع يعني مو أكثر.
نعم.
يعني الحصة هاي ال1000 حصة يعني اليوم محاصر يعني أكيد ما تكفي أي شيء. يعني ما عم يدخل أكل ما عم يدخل شرب. طبعا مي ما في، كهرباء ما في، تغطية ما في، يعني اي مقومات اساسيه ما في. يعني حتى الخبز يعني لا بالنسبه للناس صار يعني هلا بالفترات الاخيره صار يدخل بالنسبه للتجار يعني صار يدخلوا الشعير والعلف يدخلون هذول يعني عن طريق تفاوض مع النظام انه نحن بندخلوا لنا شعير وعلف للحيوانات تبعنا موجوده بالغطاء مقابل انه نطلع لكم حليب وجبنه وهالامور هاي. هلا هن العلف هلا صار يدخل العلف والشعير، صارت الناس تاخذ العلف والشعير تطحنه خبز، تاكل خبز يعني صار يعني للاسف صار اكل الحيوانات هو نفسه اكل الناس المحاصرين بالغوطه يعني ما في اي شيء. بالفترات قبل منا كانت الناس عم تعتمد على الملفوف واليخنة يعني الملفوف كانت عم تعتمد على الملفوف حتى بدل الخبز يعني مجرد الخبز يعني بتخيل انه الناس صارت حاجه تاكل الخبز او انه وصلت الناس لحتى تطحن الشعير تطحن العلف وبتساوي منه خبز. يعني باي دوله من دول العالم اكل الحيوانات صار هو اكل البشر. طبعا هذا ان توفر يعني هذا عم لك انه الشعير والعلف الناس عم تستخدمه مو كل الناس قدرانه تجيب الماده هي سواء الشعير او من العلف حتى تقدر انك تاكل خبز الشعير.
للأسف
وضع يعني مجرد وضع جدا تعيس يعني. ما بعرف شو بدي لك انه عن المفقودات بالغوطة يعني كل شيء مفقود بالغوطة كل شيء واسعار كثير كثير غالية يعني الاسعار ما تتخيلها. يعني مجرد تخيلي انه مثلا هلا بالمناطق الفاصلة بين الغوطة مثلا والشام يعني مجرد قديش 200 300 متر 400 متر او نفرض كيلو متر مثلا في فرق يعني مثلا كيلو السكر نفترض هون 50 ليرة جوا الغوطة مو أقل من 1000 ليرة يوصل ل 3000 ليرة يوصل يعني عشرات الأضعاف يوصل السعر. يعني تخيلي إنه يعني نفس المنطقة يعني مو مجرد مئات الأمتار. شوفي الأسعار هون شوفي الأسعار
نعم بس
الموجود هون شوفي الموجود هون.
نعم هذيك المنطقة مو
تماما.
نعم. طيب
تمام يعني النظام كله صار يعتمد على بس التجويع.
انت عم تقول كيلو السكر عندكم ب 300 ولا ب 3000؟
لا عم نتوصل ل 3000. هلا ارخص شيء وقت يكون رخيص كثير يعني 1000 ليره.
نعم 1000 ليره كم دولار؟ كم دولار بتطلع ال 1000 ليره؟
ال 1000 ليره تقريبا 10 دولار تقريبا يعني وصل كيلو السكر 10 دولار.
نعم. Let me translate what he was saying about the humanitarian situation that they're in. He said there is not everything is not available. Everything is not available. No food, no bread. I mean, if you can imagine, just even bread, there is not. He said that when they are able to bring animal feed, I mean, this is something, and barley for animals. People are taking it and grinding it and making it bread or something with it. They're taking the animal food because there is nothing. He said there is nothing. He said because they're in besieged area. He said like the 1 kilo of sugar, just an example. If it is outside the besieged area, even if it's few meter from the besieged area, but it's outside the besieged area, it's 50 Syrian pound, where it's 1,000 Syrian pound in their area, which is a $10 for 1 kilo of sugar.
Who is the group that, or person or entity that's asking for this increase? Is it,
they're not letting them bring anything. So when they sell them something, they sell it to them very expensive. They sell them, and that of course, the problem is I'm sure, I don't know how they buy it. I mean, if he comes on with us again, I don't see him. But if he comes, I will ask him how they're getting it inside.
No, because I'm wondering, if for example, it arrives inside, let's say, but who is, I mean, are these like the people who before were shopkeepers, or are they local warlords who are, like taking
Let me tell you something. Before I asked him this question, the small quantity that's coming inside, it's coming very expensive like that to be sold to the shops like that.
Okay. So it's the price, the incoming price.
Exactly.
That's okay. I've got it.
Yes, because I asked him that before. So he said that is the incoming price, and he said if some of the shops able to pay for it and get it, then they do, and then they have to sell it the same price to the people.
Exactly. Okay.
Yeah. So the thing is, they don't have electricity, they don't have water. Let me mention what he said about the aid that it's getting inside. He said 2 days ago they received 1,000 meals, which is he said it's like a food basket for 1,000 family. It can last maximum between 4 days, 3-4 days to a week. But it's 1,000 and they have 1 million people. 1 million people inside. So he said, so what kind of aid is that? How much it's gonna fulfill the need?
This is the aid that's coming in from, for example, the major entities like the UN and
yes, the UNICEF. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So I mean,
I have a question about that aid. Do people have to, for example, be signed up in some kind of, in order to have access to this? Do they have to, for example, register?
I need to ask him all these questions, so I will find out. I mean, I will be glad to. Let's see if he's even on, even with writing. If I can ask, no, he's not on.
Also, Brian had a question. If we scroll up, that was a really good question. I wrote a summary of it, but if I can find it, we can read it out loud. 1 second. I can't find it. Mm-mm. 1 second.
If you run across a good question,
I'm trying to. The question basically said some Syrian opposition people have said that there has to be a move back towards non-violence, even though the regime has been so violent. So he wants to know from the people in. Okay, he says the non-violent movement claims. Claims that perhaps in order to probably win even help from outside, that there has to be rejection of violence or something, despite the fact that the regime is violent. And I think he said he wanted to know what the attitudes of people are on the ground towards the fighters.
Okay, let me ask Thaer this and we'll get back to your question. Thaer, تسمعني؟
معك أنا سامعك.
نعم. في سؤال إنه أنت كموجود بالداخل، بعض يعني الناس المعارضين للثورة بالخارج عم يقولوا إنه المفروض ترجع الثورة للسلمية. فشو برأيك أنت كشخص بالداخل، رغم إنه النظام يعني ما له سلمي ما زال بتعسفه وبالضرب، فأنت كإنسان بالداخل شو رأيك بهالحكي؟
أكيد نحن يعني هذا الحكي بهذا السؤال بدنا نسأله للشهداء اللي استشهدوا، يعني للناس المعتقلة لحد الآن من سنة وسنة ونص، في ناس صار لها 3 سنين معتقلة. هذا السؤال إنه نرجع للسلمية، هذا السؤال ممكن نسأله لإلهم. يعني مو معقول بعد إحنا 3 سنين والسنة الرابعة من ثورتنا مئات أو آلاف الشهداء اللي استشهدوا، مئات آلاف المعتقلين، الناس المهجرين، يعني مستحيل ترجع الثورة للسلمية. أصلا النظام هو اللي بدأ يعني بداية ثورتنا كانت بداية سلمية طبعا، بس مو نحن اللي عملناها لثورة مسلحة، النظام هو اللي اضطرنا نحمل السلاح لحتى ندافع عن نفسنا. يعني هذا السؤال، يعني هذا الخيار، هذا يعني مستحيل انه ترجع الثورة للسلمية.
Well,
no. Okay.
What his answer to this question was, we have to ask all the martyrs, the hundreds of thousands of martyrs. We have to ask them. We have to look at them and at the hundreds of thousands of detainees and all of the damages that have been done. How could it? He said it's kind of impossible to go back to an nonviolent movement because initially none of the Syrian population started with the or the civilians.
Exactly.
They start with the to make it armed movement. It was initially a very peaceful movement that was faced by the government with arms, and also they bared that for a year or so. They did not answer with until it became impossible. So the thing is, yeah, and especially with that's from me. I'm saying there's no international support or at least help to those oppressed in Syria. So what do you expect the Syrian citizens to do? Now, let's go back to your question, because that was a good question. That how is it? I think you said how do they detect or know the families in need, or do you have to register or enroll in something to get some support, or how? So let me ask him this question. ماري عم تسأل إنه المساعدات لما بتجي هل الناس بتسجل عليها، أو شلون بينتقوا الناس اللي بيعطون إياها؟ هل انتقاء الناس بتسجل حتى إنه محتاجة مساعدات؟ كيف بيوزعوا المساعدات؟
لا شك إنه هلا بالفترات الأخيرة يعني ما صفى أي إنسان عايش بالغوطة هو مو بحاجة مساعدة. يعني يعني حتى لو كان معه، في ناس كان معها تخيل إنه ملايين معها مصاري، بظل الحصار هذا صرفت كل شيء مصاري معها. يعني لا في شغل، لا في عمل، ما في أي شيء، يعني ما في أي وارد للمصاري. يعني الناس تدمرت محلات، الرزق اللي عنده تدمر أو يعني وزع، يعني ما بقى شيء عنده أي شيء يقدر يعني يعيش منه. يعني ما بقى شيء الناس إنه وارد يعيش منه. بالنسبة للمساعدات بيتم توزيعها بكل منطقة، في مجلس محلي، في مجلس إغاثي، بيتم تسجيل الناس كلياتها الموجودة بالمنطقة. هلا بداية كان مثل ما حكيتي أنت إن الناس المحتاجة يتم توزيع لها، أما الفترات الأخيرة صارت الناس كلها محتاجة. يعني طبعا التوزيع بس بيكون عن طريق المجالس الإغاثية، بتصل المساعدات باسمها المساعدات على الناس الموجودة، وحسب الاستطاعة يعني حسب الموجود المساعدات بيتم توزيعها. بس مثل ما قلت لك مساعدات ما عم يصل أي شيء من المساعدات من برا، سوى باستثناء الحصة اللي وصلوا من كم يوم فقط. يعني أما الغوطة هي محاصرة من شهور، من سنة تقريبا صار محاصرة وما دخل أي شيء.
Okay. What he said that there is none of the people in Ghouta that left that doesn't need help. Of course, there's most of the even merchants there, their shops were destroyed. I mean, the situation that they're in is a very bad situation because they've been besieged for almost a year now. None of the aid is coming except the one that came a couple of days ago, and then we just mentioned previously about getting 1,000 help for 1 million family or 1 million person in the Ghouta. He's saying that usually yes, people they do enroll with because there are like some committees for the aid, and they do write their names, and so when if anything comes, they get distributed to those people. But basically, that all the people are in need of it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
No, because I kind of I wonder because, for example, the UN that delivers in to the Palestinians, the UNRWA, they have to they require registration for all the people. So
right.
Refugees have a requirement, And that's basically the only reason they know that the number went from 200,000 to 12,000, simply because they didn't have the names on the rolls anymore.
Yeah, that's very true. Now we're going to ask Sair, in his opinion, as one from inside, if the international world or community is serious about helping the Syrian people, how could they do that? How could they deliver the aid? سائر بدنا نسألك، طب أنت كإنسان بالداخل كيف ممكن المساعدات توصل؟ أنت برأيك شو العالم ممكن يعمل؟ شو اليو إن شو اليونيسف ممكن يعملوا ليفوتوا المساعدات المطلوبة وتدخل للناس وعلى الأقل يوصل يعني المساعدات؟
لا صدقيني هذا السؤال يعني انه الجواب ما في اسهل منه. يعني هلا يعني الغوطه معروفه وين هي، يعني على الخريطه معروف وين الغوطه موجوده، يعني ما انه هي بكوكب ثاني. يعني سواء الغوطه او سواء المترجم او سواء اي منطقه محاصره بسوريا معروفه وين هي وين موجوده. بيقدر اليو ان يصل يعني اي منظمه اغاثيه عالميه لو بدها تقدر، يعني لو بدها تفوت مساعدات تفوت مساعدات بغض النظر ان النظام وافق او ما وافق. بس كلها يعني للاسف انه عم نحس انه يعني في تآمر دولي. يعني لو الدول بدها تساعد الشعب السوري كانت ساعدته من اول شهر، ما تنتظر الا بعد السنه الرابعه. وحتى بعد السنه الرابعه الخبراء الامريكيون يتخوفون لان الثوره قد تمتد ل10 سنوات. يعني طيب ليش تمتد ل10 سنوات؟ يعني طالما هلا انتم بتقدروا تساعدوا الثوره، بتقدروا انه توقفوا بشار الاسد عن حده، يعني بتقدروا انه تساعدوا الشعب السوري بانه ينتصر بهالثوره هي، ينتصر على هالظالم هذا. يعني سوت اوكرانيا الشعب، يعني الدول كلها استنفرت وبلشت الجولات الامريكيه والجولات الاوروبيه، بلشت الاجتماعات الاوروبيه. اي مكان، مصر كمان، دول العالم كلها تحركت. اي دوله يعني سواء بالوطن العربي او باوروبا، يعني كلياته عم يتحرك. يعني مثلا هلا بالنسبه لتركيا حجب موقع تويتر من قبل اردوغان كمان عمل ضجه يعني عالميه. يعني اوروبا تتحرك وامريكا تتحرك كرمال انه حجب موقع تويتر. اما الشعب السوري اللي عم يقتل كل يوم، يهجر كل يوم، يعني عم ينباد بكل الوسائل المتاحه، عم يتم التدخل من قبل من ايران، من لبنان، من يعني كل الدول بتتعامل مع الموضوع. فهن لو بدهم يساعدوا الشعب السوري بيقدروا يساعدوه، بيقدروا يدخلوا المساعدات، بيقدروا يعملوا اي شيء. بس هن ما بدهم، هن بس يكون بدهم في الطريق موجود مفتوح الطريق، بيقدر الجيش الحر بيقدر يحميهم. هلا باخر مره فاتوا كان النظام يخوفهم انه جوا بالغوطه في ناس بتقتلكم، في ناس بتذبحكم، في ناس يعني وحوش لين ياكلوكم. كادت اللجنه وقبل ما وقت الكيماوي كمان نفس الامر فاتوا تحت حمايه الجيش الحر. الجيش الحر باذن الله قادر يحميهم.
I think well, I don't know if he stopped or he's
بس هن ما بدهم.
what he's saying that it's a very simple question and there is a simple answer to that. If they wanted to deliver the aid, they can. They can. That when the UN committee came in, they were under the protection of the Free Syrian Army. Of course, the government told them they're inside. They're going to be, of course, those thugs that they're going to kill you, that they're going to slaughter you, that this and that. But he said the Ghouta is known where it is on the map. The road to Ghouta is known where it is. If they want to deliver the humanitarian aid, they can. And it's very possible. It's very simple to do if they want to get. And he said, if you look at all of the situation in the outside world, look at Ukraine, how all the international community, they gathered, they rushed to interfere, they rushed to intervene. There is no intervention in Syria. They did not do anything from the beginning. So now they're going to help. I mean, now in the here when people are dying of hunger, then they can help if they want to help. It's he said just one thing was done by the Turkish president, which is when he banned the social network or something, and the whole international community, reacted right away. There is no reaction whatsoever. People they've been killed in Syria, tortured, all the barbarian actions in Syria, and the international community is still mute about it. They don't do what they're supposed to do. If they want to help, they can help. كلمة بتحب أعطيك أنت الكلمة الأخيرة، شو بتحب تقول سائر ولا معي سائر سامعني؟
أنا معك سامعني.
شو بتحب تقول لرؤساء العالم اللي عم يشوفوا؟
يعني شو بدي لهم، يعني مثل ما قلت لك لو بدهم يساعدوا الشعب السوري كان ساعدوا، يعني بدي خبرهم بذكرهم من 10 سنين هن لمجرد يعني لو بدي اتذكر حادثة الكيماوي هن بالعراق لمجرد تذكرهم او مجرد شكهم انه وجود اسلحه كيماويه تم اجتياح العراق، تم احتلال العراق، وانه كمان هن حكوا انه ساعدوا الشعب العراقي يتخلصوا من صدام، وهن كانوا شاكين انه في اسلحه كيماويه. بسوريا في اسلحه كيماويه، تم استخدام الاسلحه الكيماويه ضد يعني بداية كانوا يقولوا انه كل شيء الا الكيماوي، الكيماوي خط احمر، تم استخدام الكيماوي، تم تهويد اعلامي مثل ضربة عسكرية على سوريا. بعد منه ما صار شيء، يعني بين العالم انه يتذكروا مكان موجود بالعالم اسمه سوريا، هذا الشعب اللي يعني ينقتل يوميا بكل انواع الاسلحه، تم استخدام الكيماوي اللي بتعرف انه هو الخط الاحمر بالنسبه لايفون، تم استخدام الكيماوي في اكثر من 1000 شهيد بهي الاستخدام هذا، في عشرات او مئات الاصابات، في شعب عم ينقتل، يعني ساعدوا بس الناس المدنيه هي اللي عم تنقتل، اللي عم تنتج جويعه يوميا، يعني هلا يعني بكل المناطق المحاصره بكل سوريا، مو بس يعني المقاتلين، نفترض هو مثلا حاصر المقاتلين، مو بس المقاتلين هم اللي عم يتحاصروا، هو عم يحاصر الشعب الموجود بتلك المناطق، عم يجوعهم، عم يخليه يعني عم يكون عنده هو السلاح التجويعي، هو السلاح الرئيسي عنده، لانه كل الاسلحه اللي عنده استخدمها وما قدر يتقدم على الارض، ما قدر يحقق نتائج، فلجأ اخر شيء لسلاح التجويع. هل لو كان السلاح هذا سلاح التجويع عم يتم استخدامه بأي دولة من العالم كان حيكون هيك رد بهالبرودة هي، برودة الأعصاب هي، أكيد أنا متأكد إنه حيكون ردهم بهالطريقة هي، بهالبرود هذا. تحركوا بس لأنقاذ العالم، الأطفال هي اللي عم تموت يوميا من الجوع، أدوا واجبكم الإنساني تجاه الشعب هذا. يعني ما بعرف شو بدي أحكي، يعني حكي كثير بس صعب إيجابه، يعني كلمتين، يعني إنه شعب بس يعني يساعدوا هالشعب هذا اللي عم يقتل، عم يموت من الجوع، وعم يموت كل أنواع الأسلحة بس طبعا، يعني تم استخدام كل الأسلحة المتاحة، يعني ما في دولة بالعالم تم استخدام كل الأسلحة بالضبط، وظل الشعب يعني وظل العالم الخارجي ساكت إلا سوريا.
نعم للأسف. Thayer is saying, what can he say? What is it he can say to address the international community, the world presidents? What can he say? What is it he can say? The suffering, the struggle, I'm going to just make it brief. What he said, that he just want to remind the international community that just for a doubt they had that maybe Iraq, they had chemical weapons, They invaded the whole country and they helped the people to get rid of Saddam Hussein. But the problem is in Syria, they witnessed the truth and they witnessed the actual use of chemical weapons, and still there was no reaction. There was no reaction for 3 years with seeing all the people getting murdered, tortured, with all different kind of weapons, including the chemical weapons. And now the last weapon that the regime is using is the starvation. His question is to the world: if they see that happening anywhere except in Syria, would they do something or not? People, children, women, elderly, they're getting killed by starvation from their government. And he wants the people to know in the world that there is a place called Syria and people are getting tortured and killed. And the last weapon that this government is using is starvation, and they are dying of starvation. So he said that there's a lot of things to say, but what is it going to help, or how it's going to help? He of course, I think I'm saying that it's I think we get out of words because it's unfortunately that we're seeing this and witnessing this, that something
for so long
never happened maybe in the history, and nothing is happening. Yes.
And one thing that I've kind of noticed is we're exhausted by it, just psychologically. So then people who just kind of are, into the news item of the moment, they're not exhausted, they're just completely distracted, because it's been so long now. It's the question is, what does it take to bring it to the attention of people, to make them
that's
care?
Very true, and that's very true. And then the thing is, I think about the future of people like Thayer. He said that he was reading that that the West is afraid that the Syrian revolution gonna take about 10 years, or it's gonna expand to 10 years. He's saying, why don't you stop it? I mean, it's in their hands to stop it.
Exactly.
To take that long. So what about their future? They left their school, they left. I mean, did anybody think about that? This young generation that's coming without, they don't have school, they cannot go to school, their schools are getting bombed. They don't have a life, and what kind of life they're gonna have a few years down the road. So I mean,
someone here asked a question. They'd like to know what he says the attitude towards the national coalition is inside Syria.
شو الناس عندك، شو موقفهم من الائتلاف؟
الناس ما بيهم لا ائتلاف ولا دول عالم خارجي ولا حتى جنيف، ولا يعني اصلا الناس ما عم تتابع التلفزيون، ما في كهرباء ما بتعرفي انت. الناس اللي بتفكر بلقمة عيشها، يعني الناس اللي عم تفكر كيف بدها تأمن لقمة لأطفالها، كيف تأمن يعني أكل لأطفالها، وقت الطفل إلك يقول بابا جوعان أو ماما جوعان يعني، وما قدران يقدم له أكل، فهو أكيد ما عم يفكر لا بائتلاف ولا مجلس وطني ولا بدول العالم الخارجي، لأنه لو هالناس كلها اللي برا يعني لو بدها تساعد كانت ساعدت. هالناس اللي قاعدة بالفنادق لو حاسة ما كانت ضلت واقفة لهلا، كانت ساعدت. يعني ما حدا يعني ما خبرتك يعني الناس يعني أي شيء عم يصير برا ولا حتى أصلا عم يدروا فيه أو عم يفكروا فيه. يعني صار في كسر كثير بالنسبة له، يعني كل مرة بيقولوا لهم يلا هلا حيساعدونا، هلا حيصير مساعدات عسكرية حسب الوضع. وقت الناس بالنسبة للأمريكيين الناس فأنا
Well, what he was saying, he's saying that
مو بس تكون ضربة للنظام. ترجمي بس أو
نعم، هو انقطع الصوت عنك ففكرتك سكت. نعم. What he's saying that people inside really they could care less about coalition. about the international community. They don't care about anything at this point. They're looking at their children, yelling, they're hungry, and they care about trying to find something for their children to feed them. They don't watch the news. They don't have electricity. They don't care, because if those people are sitting outside the coalition in their hotel room, comfortable, and not thinking about those people who needs to put food in the mouth of their children and their families, and they can help, and they didn't do anything. So what is it that, what's the reaction you think of people towards them?
But the other day, someone had actually mentioned, and I think it's a good point. Said, well, it's someone that represents us, and we have to have someone to ask for our demands. So, why?
But are they fulfilling their demands? See, they're not asking it like, what did Geneva do? This is what he said. People, they look at that. What does it come? I mean, not even help they're not getting. So, what all this is helping the Syrian people? It's not. Even Geneva, even whatever they, if 1,000 out of 1 million received help, what kind of help is that? That's the thing.
Should the demands that are kind of being made? I mean, okay, we realize that we have to getting aid, and as you said, accompaniment of the aid is necessary. But are there other demands, for example, like arming the opposition, or a no-fly zone, or humanitarian corridors?
But see, those demands were on the table long ago, Mary.
Okay, but
I mean, the coalition know those demands, they have them, but there's no reaction whatsoever. So this, what he's saying is, the only time that the population inside they were happy is when they heard that there will be a military strike on the government after the use of the chemical weapons. This is where they had some hope at that point, and that at that point they've although maybe this military action will take them to, they didn't care, but they thought it would be a relief.
So what should we out here be asking our representatives to do? To propose military strikes, or to propose what exactly?
سائر فهمت شو قالها؟ عم تقول نحن بالخارج نضغط على السياسيين بأي طريقة. هل يعملوا حملة عسكرية على الحكومة؟ شو اللي ممكن يساعد الشعب السوري؟
نحن اللي بدنا اياه اول شيء دخلوا مساعدات لهالناس. هذا قبل اي شيء يقدموا اكل وشرب لهالناس هي المحاصره، هي صار لها سنه محاصره. وبعد منا يسلحوا الجيش الحر. هن لو بدهم يسلحوا الجيش الحر، والجيش الحر طبعا اكيد لاحظت هو ما له مثل ما عم يقولوا انه ارهابي ومتطرف وقاعده. يعني اذا شفتي انت الناس يعني سواء الجيش الحر، جبهه اسلاميه، جبهه دوار سوريا يعني عسكري، او جبهه اسلاميه، او سواء جبهه النصره، هن عم يحاربوا الارهابيين. يعني اكيد هذا السلاح يعني كانوا بيقولوا ان نحن نوصل السلاح لايد المتطرفين. هن شافوا بعينهم انه الجيش الحر او الثوار السوريين هن ما لهم متطرفين، هن ما لهم ارهابيين، هن طلعوا ليطالبوا بالحريه، ليطالبوا ليخفوا بالنظام المجرم هذا. فهن ما عندهم اي يعني حجه لحتى انه ما يسلحوا الجيش الحر. يسلحوا الجيش الحر، ونحن باذن الله بنقدر نشيل هذا النظام بايام معدوده. يعني ان بس يساعدوا هالناس بالمحاصره ويساعدوا الجيش الحر عسكريا.
I think he really answered our question very good, and Max is telling me we really need to wrap. It's been more than 1 hour and 15 minutes. So what he said 2 things. That's all they ask. Number 1 is force the humanitarian aid immediately, because people are dying from starvation. So that's number 1. And number 2 is to give effective weapons to the Free Syrian Army that prove that they're not terrorists, they're not Qaeda, they're not nothing like that. If they give them, within a few days they can take care of this government. But the thing is, really, I mean, this is who's carrying this people demand on ground right now is the Free Syrian Army, that they are putting their lives in risk. They're risking their lives to save the Syrians. And with that being said, those are the two things that we need to demand. I know that we have a big issue to cover, which is the refugees, whether inside or outside. Those who are also asking for asylum, and we talk about that. But I guess we need another program to do that. I think all our viewers can suggest the topics that they want us to discuss next time. And we thank Mary, we thank Taher for being here with us. And I know the hardship that he went through to be with us. We really appreciate that, and we look forward to have more discussions in the future very soon, and hopefully you will see the postings again. And thank you, Max, for organizing this. We appreciate.
Thank you, Max.
Vonvo is a big support, and we really appreciate that. So thank you, everybody, and you all have a good one.
بس ملاحظة صغيرة بس رنا إذا ممكن.
تفضل.
يعني بس بدي أحكي هلا أنا يعني أحد المعاناة كمان إنه هلا أنا بعيد عن أهلي 2 كيلو متر بس، يعني 5 دقائق بعيد عن هون، وصار لي سنة ما قدرت أشوف هون. يعني أنا محاصر بمنطقة بالغوطة، وهن محاصرين بمنطقة جنوبية. فأي دولة بالعالم هيك بتصير إنه 2 كيلو متر بيني وبين أهلي، وصار لي هلا أكثر من سنة ما قدرت أشوف هون.
This is very sad. What he's saying, he just wants to say something, just to think about the struggle that they go through. He is only 2 kilometers, that's mean 1 mile away from his family. They're besieged in one area, he's besieged in a different area. He didn't see them for a year and a half. He cannot see his family, his own family. For a year and a half, he didn't see his family. That's one small struggle of the Syrians living inside Syria. We hope that this situation, and I think we pray that it will be resolved soon. You know, some miracle, maybe.
Tell him to be strong. We really support him out here, even though they probably don't feel it. We've had a big.
عم تقول قلوبنا معك حتى لو يمكن انت ما تشعروا انتم بالداخل، بس نحن هون قلوبنا معكم وعم نعمل جهدنا لحتى نساعدكم.
We've had some.
وبتمنى يعني بس من الناشطين بالخارج، يعني مثل ما حكيت انه يضغطوا على السياسيين ولا ما بدهم يسلحوا الجيش الحر، بس يحاولوا يوصلوا مساعدات للناس المحتاجة بسوريا، بس ما بدنا أكثر من هيك.
He's saying that this is the last thing he's trying to say, that we activists on the outside, that we must, you know, pressure the politicians to really offer weapons to the Free Syrian Army and to send the aid, and hopefully that will be help for them. With all of that, I thank everybody, viewers, attendants, and we hope to see it.
If people, you know, Max can close the recording, but I think there are probably some Syrians on here that might want to listen just for 1 or 2 minutes, because there's something important I want to say about a request for asylum in Europe, because there's a problem that I not me personally, but here in Italy, it's something that all the activists seem to be dealing with quite a bit. So if it's possible, just for 1 or 2 minutes, if I can say.
You can ask Max and see what he thinks. Max, maybe he did.
He's okay. He's probably, if he's turned off the. I mean, I'll just. Oh, it's still going. Okay. Well, it doesn't matter if it's okay. One thing that I'd like to point out is a lot of people are leaving the refugee camps and Syria with every means possible in order to get to safety. And unfortunately, the international community hasn't been helping. They haven't had air buses, they haven't had airlifts, rescue missions, nothing. They've left all of this to the ability of the refugees or the people fleeing themselves to escape and to find safety. So a lot of people have heard about the possibility of obtaining asylum in foreign countries, and Europe, which is where I live, has the obligation, as all the different countries that have signed the various conventions about asylum and requests for asylum. We have the obligation to accept asylum seekers and to help them out. But the problem is we also have a regulation which is it goes under the name of the Second Dublin Convention, and unfortunately the restriction of this convention is that the asylum seeker is required to make his request for asylum in the first country in which he arrives. And in most of the cases, it's not the country that he wants to have asylum in. Almost all of these people arrive in Italy or in Greece or in other countries, which unfortunately don't have the ability to offer the things that Sweden and Germany are offering. So a lot of these people come in the hopes that they can continue to move onward and towards Sweden. The problem is that unfortunately they're blocked. A lot of them are blocked in Italy because they're required to make an asylum request, and most of them refuse to do it because once you do that, you have to remain here in Italy, and Italy hasn't got it's not able to offer the minimum requirements for people. So a lot of people they do whatever they can to raise money in order to take a train, or people help them to move upwards. But I just wanted to state straight away that that the situation before they leave Syria, to try as best they can to look into the situation, to watch out for what they might expect, because unfortunately we here in Europe haven't fought hard enough for the rights of asylum seekers to be anywhere they want to ask asylum in Europe, not just in the landing point. And in the lack of that, to ask our country, Italy, to provide more fully for the needs of the people who arrive here. So it's a big problem. In the past 3 days, we've had not only from Syria, from other countries, there've been close to 5,000 people who've arrived on boats in the Mediterranean, and of course with the spring, this number is going to be high every single day until winter starts again. So if we don't have the ability to get our lawmakers to establish the air buses and the relief and the rescue, and or at the very least that we can do is to try to inform people who are leaving Syria about the actual situation, and to try to inform them of what actually awaits them upon their arrival. That's it. I can't hear you. I have no audio.
I put the mute button on.
Oh, okay.
Let me translate what you said, because you know what, something I to apologize to everyone that I should have also translated to Arabic whatever you said. So that's bad on my side. ماري بدها تحكي عن وضع اللاجئين اللي عم يهربوا لأوروبا، يعني وهي بإيطاليا يعني واحدة منهم. فالوضع صعب كتير، وبتحب إنه نغطي هالشي المرة، يعني هي مختصر مفيد، يعني نغطي هالشي لأنه هذا طبعا معاناة لوحدها، ويعني بده حلقة كاملة إن شاء الله تعالى، فممكن نحكي عليه وكيف ممكن نساعد اللاجئين بالخارج. Can recording be accessed? Brian, the recording will be on YouTube, and Max will post it, right Max? الحلقة هيك حتكون على اليوتيوب وممكن أي حدا يشوفها. طيب. Okay, I guess we're done.
Okay, victory to the revolution, and peace to all of you for all of your doing. Thank you so much.